What's up, you guys? I must confess that as of lately, life has not been treating me the greatest. It's been kind of difficult emotionally and physically, but I'm not going to let that stop me. You guys know how I am. I don't think that stuff will get back to normal quite as soon as I would like for it to. But like I said, again, I'm someone who doesn't give up, so I just don't want you guys to worry, but it's just a very difficult and unpleasant time for me right now. But regardless, I'm still going to get on here and do what I like to do. I wanted to express some of the stuff that I feel that we take for granted. And I do this kind of in a meditative state, which tends to happen to me a lot when I cannot sleep. And one of the things that I can think of that's pretty basic is citizenship. And the reason I want to mention citizenship is because it's really easy for me to just stick around, do stuff, move around here in this country that's pretty big. Like, there's more to the US than just the continental part of it. But I never really thought about what other people would give to have citizenship from this nation. It's not just limited to people wanting to come into the United States. I'm sure that there's people who maybe they want to go to another continent altogether. A lack of resources is what makes it difficult for most people. Like for me personally, sometimes I think, how about if I give myself an opportunity to start in a new country? But when I think about it, I would not dare to go to a country in which I am not even fluent in the language. That's very basic. I do not want to depend on someone else or resources of that nation to get by without me bringing knowledge and skills of my own. When I think about it, it's so easy for me, at least where I'm at, to just pick up and go. But other people, if you're born somewhere that's really isolated, I can see how that can be pretty frustrating for you to try to relocate, but your resources are limited, your homeland itself is kind of small. So I can understand now why some people would really rather try to initiate a life somewhere else. And I guess another thing that I can mention that we take for granted is our health. I never stopped to think about how much of my body I need until something just hurts. Say, anytime that I cut my hands, it's like, oh wow, I have no idea how much contact that part of my hand does with the external world. And also the fact that my skin covers live flesh. It's like until the flesh is exposed, I never think about the role of my skin in such detail. I'm pretty sure no one does, but it helps me just to take a second and be like, I'll never take my skin for granted again. So I try to take care of it. Same thing with your respiratory system. When the winter and the spring arrive, we all have our allergies, our flus, and all that mess that we deal with, unless you happen to have one of those immune systems that are invincible. Mine sometimes is, sometimes it isn't. But you never stop to think about your health until it's gone, pretty much. Like, I never think about how my sense of smell is so important for me to enjoy something like eating. Sometimes I would rather not eat just because I cannot taste it, but I think it's ridiculous because I need to eat. I shouldn't eat just for the pleasure of it. I should eat because it is something that needs to be done. Health is something that I never take for granted, especially after something that happened to me in April 2014, where I thought I would never get up from bed again because my whole body was just failing on me. But fortunately, each time that I reemerge from being sick, I feel like I can recover from things better than before I got sick. It's kind of weird. I guess it's just your body uh, training to become better until eventually you hit an age in which it doesn't work like that anymore. You start going backward. And then, of course, we can talk about income. Think about the people's lives that are changing anytime that you see an ambulance just rush past you. I always think about that anytime I'm driving and I see an ambulance, or really if I hear the sirens at all. It's like, if that's an ambulance, someone's life is changing, because what if this is the head of household? What if this is a person who brings extra income? Or what if this is the only person in a household that can actually work for now? You never know what's happening. And even if it's a younger person who does not really have a job, it's still changing someone's life, because that is someone who someone needs to be accountable for, and now they have to make decisions, especially financially. You have to make sure that you can afford for this person to recover, even though when you're like under 18 you have free health insurance, from what I understand. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't incur any other prices to consider, such as, what if you need to be accommodated in your house? What if you need a special diet during your recovery? Anything can happen. You just never know. I always think about that anytime I see an ambulance, especially an ambulance. I'm thinking someone's life is changing right now, every second. And hopefully it's something that can be dealt with positively. Also, food quality. That is something that, as a younger person, I never thought about. I thought that food was just food. Anything that I could eat that was safe to eat is just, I need to be careful about not eating too much junk food. But I thought that there was nothing to it. I'm eating exactly what I think I'm eating. But then I learned what the ingredients label actually says, and what it means, and what certain things out there are actually made of. And that's very depressing, especially in this country. I keep hearing so much that if you go overseas, if you ask for chicken, you know for sure that you're getting chicken. You just know that the ingredients are more genuine. Other places tend to say that our menus, even though we claim to be authentic when finding inspiration from foreign dishes, it's weird to me to hear that that stuff is not authentic, and that we're also not using the proper ingredients. Why do we need to have so many preservatives? Why do we need to have so many artificial colors? It's weird to me. But I understand why you would want to preserve food, because there's a lot of us out there. There's only so much food to go around for everybody. So you have to make it last as long as possible. But at what price, though? It's weird. That's the best way I can describe it at the moment. But I just know that I hope one day to maybe get out of here and try for myself food from other countries to see what the deal is. But that'll never cease to amaze me, and not necessarily in a good way. But I also hear that Even fruits are different. If you were to go somewhere else, you know that if you're eating an orange, you can count on the fact that you're eating an orange. An apple is an apple. And I'm like, wow, I thought that I have had good apples, but apparently I haven't. And even the stuff that says on the label that is organic, it doesn't mean that 100% of those ingredients are organic. And organic simply means that something was grown without the use of certain like things. Say if you're growing fruits, you're not supposed to use pesticides or stuff like that, something like that. Can't really get my mind on it right now on the fly. But yeah, it's crazy that I cannot seem to trust the food quality that I'm getting. Somewhere out there, what I'm having could be better. And I cannot wrap my head around that always. And electricity. This one's a big one for me because, say, the longest that I have ever been without power at home was for maybe a week, and that's when I was a kid, and there was a hurricane. And I just remember that we were without power for a while, but back then we still had skill when it came to adapting to a day without having power. But nowadays, we need electricity for absolutely everything. Cooking, unless you have maybe a gas stove or something. And radios. I have not bought batteries as an adult. And it was wild for me to come to that realization because I was out shopping with my boyfriend and then he was trying to find out the price of some batteries, and I'm like, you know, in my time as an adult, I've never purchased batteries like that. Ever since I've had a job, I've never bought any of those. And then when I thought about it, I had no idea how much I was taking rechargeable stuff for granted. There would have been times in which I would not have been able to use my phone because I would have had to decide between gas, eating, or batteries if I want to throw that into the equation. So it's kind of weird to think about that. But I'm pretty sure that presently we don't seem to handle well not having power for half a day. If we lost it for just a month, shoot, we would lose it. Especially during this season when you have all this heat. And then during the winter, I think that losing power during the winter, there are more solutions to cope with that. Like you can bundle yourself very well and you'll be fine. But for the summer, how can you really cool down without electricity? You could take maybe some clothes and dampen them a bit and have a fan, but a fan runs on electricity. So I'm not sure. You guys let me know if you have a good plan for how to cool yourself down when it's hot outside. And let's not use an example of something that would have involved electricity to make it possible. Say, if you're going to say, take this and that and wrap it around the ice or something, you would have needed electricity to produce that ice in the summertime. So, yeah, something like that. Just enlighten me with some survival tips because I have none. Another thing that I can think of that I feel a lot of us take for granted are our relationships. And the reason I bring that up is because some people whom I know, I feel, are always treating those around them like they're going to be there forever and supply forever. Say, if you are a young person who is dating someone and you live with that person, what if that person gets sick and they cannot work anymore? What do you do as a young person who doesn't have very stable finances and you're counting on someone else? It's kind of like me, except that I don't live with a partner, I live with my mother. But it's like if something were to happen to her, I would be in a tough situation until I can get some stuff sorted. But that's something that I don't like to take for granted at all, because I know that anything can happen and that can change. So it's a pretty frightening prospect to not feel stability. But when it comes to other people and the way they treat their partners, I'm like, there's no way I could treat someone like that who does so much for me, taking them for granted. One of the things I see the most is, say you left work in a hurry and you forgot to pack your lunch or something, and then you ask for your partner to bring it, and then your partner for some reason doesn't bring it when they were supposed to, and you get upset. It's like, don't take that person for granted. I'm sure that they do a whole lot for you. So if you can bring their stuff, just do it. And also, as the person who's on the receiving end of, say, you're asking for a favor, so someone is able to fulfill it for you, I guess do not take the person who's facilitating your life for granted either. So I just wish I saw more of a two-way street as opposed to a one-way street, because I personally feel like I have always been on a one-way street when it comes to relationships, but there is stuff that I could have done much better to make someone else's life better as well, but I just took them for granted too. But anyways, I won't know how I'll manifest when it comes to that until someone actually dares to give me a chance and be in a serious relationship with me. But anyway, and then finally, and this is one that I haven't really meditated on as much as I should, but running water. We never really think about how awesome it is that you can just turn a little knob and water just comes to you clean. It's not necessarily 100% safe, because of course there's stuff in it. Sometimes it may contain impurities, and there's stuff that you should not ingest in excess amounts. But at least we don't have to go very far to get clean water to make our lives comfortable. I cannot imagine having to go to a body of water and bring water home so that I can wash dishes, or maybe take my dishes with me to some place and then try to clean them on some kind of a stream or something. I'm just glad that I don't have to go very far, that I can stay at home within the building to access water. Especially when it gets hot out there and it's just uncomfortable, lots of bugs and whatnot. I'm just very, very, very weak when it comes to bugs. So if I can avoid being outside, I will do it. But also to take a shower, you don't have to really venture out too far. It's just there at the comfort of this building. So yeah, you guys, those are pretty much some things that I can think of that I seem to take for granted a lot, and that I feel most of us would take for granted a lot. What is something that you would add to this list? Something that you spend a lot of time thinking about and that you hope you never take for granted? Let me know. I like to have these kinds of discussions and thoughts because it just helps me grow as a person, and it just keeps things in perspective for me. Alright guys, well, thanks so much for tuning in. Maybe one of these days I'll be able to stream regularly like I used to, but for right now this is something that I will need to postpone and recur to this method. But I'm sure that it might be resolved soon enough. So anyways, let's just hope. Alright, I'll see you soon.